Hey everybody, what is a halftone image and how can I create that in Adobe Photoshop? In fact, I'm going to do it 3 different ways. 2 ways in Photoshop and 1 way with a plugin. Are we ready for this? Let's do it. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new to the channel, this is dedicated to photography and as a photo artist pushing ourselves creatively out of the box. All right, today's program is about halftone images. And what we're going to talk about is how can we actually create that image. And I'll do it 2 different ways in Photoshop, and then I'm going to use a third-party plugin just to show you that we do have options out there. But let's dive into, well, what is a halftone? And I had to look this up and try to do a simplified way of explaining what that means. So let me pull this screenshot up here and just read this to you. And a halftone image is a technique used in printing that simulates continuous tone imagery through the use of discrete dots. And this will make more sense when I show you some examples. These dots vary in size or spacing, creating the illusion of a solid color and gradients when viewed from a distance. Halftone images are commonly used in print media to save ink while effectively displaying images, as they can represent grayscale values and create an appearance of continuous tones. Now, that's a big description right there. But I remember back in the days of newspaper and everything was printed in black and white, and photographs used that halftone image type concept when they did printing. But we can actually do this digitally in Photoshop. So let's take a look at 3 different ways of approaching this, starting with our first one. So here in Photoshop, starting with this image, duotones can be worked on any kind of photography that your genre is in. In other words, this could be street photography, still life, doesn't really matter. So what I'm going to do here is duplicate the layer, Control J, Command J on a Mac, so I can do a quick before and after. And I want to convert this to black and white because most of the time when we think of halftone images, we think of it in black and white because that's where it came from, even though you can do it in color. But I'm just going to convert this to black and white, a simple way. Do it your way, but I'm just going to come here in Photoshop under Image, drop-down menu, and I'm going to, let's say, make an adjustment here. You could just choose desaturate if you want. If you want a little bit more control, maybe just choose black and white. When this dialog box opens up, we can adjust the settings here on the sliders. I'm just going to do this quick, maybe something like that, and then click on OK. Bottom line is I have a black and white image to start with. Now what I want to do is convert this to a smart object layer. So on the layer here in the gray area, I'm going to right mouse click and come down here to convert to smart object. Now that I have that set, I want to duplicate this layer because I'm going to do this 3 different ways. 2 methods are going to be in Photoshop. 1 will be with a plugin to show you the variation of techniques that we have available to us. But I don't want these to be linked together, these smart object layers. So I cannot do Control J or Command J on a Mac. What I want to do is right mouse click on this layer and choose New Smart Object via Copy. That means these are independent layers. If I didn't do that and I just did Control J, whatever I do on one smart object layer, it would replicate that in the other one or my third one that I'm going to make right here. So I don't want them. I want them to be independent. That's why I'm doing this. Right mouse click again, and I'm choosing New Smart Object via Copy. That way I know that these are totally independent layers of each other. So when I close out of these 2, just going to hide those, I'm going to work on this one to start with. And the first method I'm going to use is a method I think most people know about, but it's the second method I found a lot of people didn't know existed. So let's do the basic first one, and that is under Filter drop-down menu. If you go to a category called Filter Gallery, when this opens up, let me just close out of this. There is a category here called Sketch, and under the Sketch category, there's something called Halftone, and I'm going to choose Halftone, and let me pull back on this so we can see the image. There we go. So we can see part of that right there. And you have 2 major sliders here. If I move this to the left, this is size, so it just changes the dots. They're smaller. Let me move that up so it's bigger so we can see it. And then we have contrast. Contrast, I can push this up. You can see what it's doing. We're missing a lot of detail, but again, that might be your look. That might be what you're looking for. So there's two variations of sliders that we can work with to come up with the look that we like. And then when you click on OK, that will just drop that back into the layer. And then again, because it's a smart object layer, I can change my mind by double clicking here, and it will reopen up the filter category, and you can make any kind of adjustment you want. Let me pull up the contrast a bit and just click on OK again, and that will just re-render out. Okay, so that's the first method. The second method, I find a lot of people didn't know you could do this in Photoshop. So let me activate that layer. And a different way of doing this is going to filter again, but choosing a category called pixelate. And it's called color halftone. Now, again, you could do this with color images, but most people relate to halftones in black and white and grayscale. So I'm just going to choose that and just show you it's a different interface. Maximum radius here, I'm just going to do, I'll punch in 40. I got 50, 50, 50, 50 on the other channels. You could make some adjustments based on your needs. And then when I click on OK to accept that, you can see what happens when it renders that out. Now, if I didn't like that, because it's a smart object, I can go over here, double click, and reopen that up and say, I want this to be 30 instead. So I'm going to type in 30 there and 30 there. And again, experiment with these. Make them anywhere from 20 to 50. And just so we can see that it's going to change, let me change the radius here to, I'm going to go 25 just to see what happens there. And click on OK. And you can see the adjustment there. And again, I can go back here, double click, and readjust those values. So that's their second way. This is the first method I just did. And then this is the second method I just did. And again, personal preference. You might want to duplicate this layer. You might want to add some contrast to this by using curves, levels, whatever, to make any kind of adjustment you want. The last method I'm going to use right here is with a third-party plugin. Now, if you've been following me for a while, by the way, if you're learning anything here, if you can do me a favor, like the video, subscribe if you have not subscribed, hit that notification bell. Next time I upload a video, you'll get notified on that. If you've been following me for a while, you know I use a plugin once in a while called Boris FX Optics. I have no affiliation with them. If you decide to, go to their website, download the trial version, play with it, whatever. If you buy it, they don't know you got it because of me, whatever. So I'm not getting a kickback, but I was a beta tester for them in the earlier days before the public version was available to it. So I got a lot of insight as to what was going on with this product. So I'm going to open that up. And when it opens up, I'll just show you that it's going to ask me, do I want to use what I used last time? No, I can't remember what I used last time. But I'm going to go over here to search in the upper left-hand corner there. I'm just going to type in halftone. Okay, there we go. So I'm just going to choose the default over here on the far left, even though there's different variations. But let's take a look at the parameters on the right side. This is the default setting, but dot frequency. I can change that and increase the dots, right? A whole bunch, or all the way to nothing. But I do want some dots in there, and I want it to be maybe something like that. And then dot angle, I can adjust that. Let's say the dot width. Hard to see that, but you can see how it's reshaping. The width, I'm going to reset that back to a circle. And we got all different types of settings here. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. The bottom line is, in my opinion, this one gives me the greatest control over the two methods we saw in Photoshop. It's not right or wrong. Let me just apply this right here. That will render out and come back into Photoshop on that layer. And again, because it's a smart object layer, you can see right here, if I just double click on this, it'll reopen up in Optics and I can make my adjustments. So this is with Boris FX Optics right here. And let me turn that layer off. This is the one I did in Photoshop that was under, if we remember, filter drop-down menu. The category was pixelate. And then that was right there. And then let me turn that off. And then this was the one I did in the filter, halftone filter that we have in the filter section of Photoshop. So all three are viable methods. Pick the best one that meets your design, vision, because what I might like this one, I prefer this one in optics because it gives me the greatest control. You may not want to invest into a third-party plugin, so try these two methods in Photoshop and see what you like the best. There's no right or wrong on that. It's just that we do have a choice. Okay. So again, hopefully you've learned something here. I would just, grab one of your images, whatever it is, street photography, landscape, whatever, and try to do a halftone in Photoshop, the two techniques. If you own optics, try it in optics and see what you like as the best technique for you. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's get that camera out. Let's get out there shooting. Let's make mistakes. Why? Because we learn from mistakes. And literally, let's think creatively out of the box. Until next time, see ya.